welcome. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and it would definitely mean a lot. The link is in the description below. Once you click on the link, it'll just tell you subscribed or whatever. I appreciate y'all. It definitely means a lot. And here's where we'll start. Kevin Durant. You know, man, this is why I love basketball, bro. I know I did a whole why I love basketball rant last episode, but this is why I love basketball, man. Basketball is like a pendulum. I was ready to come in here. And say, hey, Brooklyn seasons is over. Without Kyrie, which we'll talk about in a second. Without Kyrie, they can't beat the Bucks. Yeah, you still have Kevin Durant, but you don't have anybody else. James Harden wasn't announced to be playing. So it just looked mighty bleak for the Brooklyn Nets. And then I'm hearing a whole bunch of Kevin Durant's not LeBron James. Now you see what LeBron James had to go through. Kevin Durant is not a leader. Kevin Durant can't lead a team. I just heard it all. And I'm like, I know Kevin Durant's a great scorer, and he can defend when he wants to, and he can pass when he wants to. But this is a Bucks team. This is the semifinal. I mean, it's gonna be tough, man. I was ready to come in here and just say, "Hey, good season, Brooklyn," but injuries really killed y'all, and then it happened. And then Kevin Durant happened. And here's the thing: I never doubted Kevin Durant. You know, I never doubted the fact that Kevin Durant was going to be Kevin Durant. I never doubted the fact that Kevin Durant can come out and have a historic bravioso game. And I never thought that Kevin Durant couldn't win a game. What I thought was, I didn't think that he could win because of the surrounding pieces, because James Harden wasn't supposed to be playing. Kyrie was out. You had to trust on Joe Harris, who was playing like garbage this playoffs. Bruce Brown, who had one good half. Landry Shamet. Blake Griffin, who had a couple good games, but he's not the Blake Griffin of old. I knew Kevin Durant can get his points off. I just didn't think that anyone else was able to come on for that ride and lead Brooklyn to victory. And to be completely honest with you, even what we saw happen, bro, Kevin Durant became the first player in NBA history to have 49 and side note before we keep going, Kevin Durant is straight garbage for that. I hate when people Steph Curry did that. This season as well. He was at like 49 points. Or 59 points, something like that, and he missed a free throw to end the game on a 49 or 59. I don't remember. I believe it was 59. He had 62. Yeah, I believe it was 59, and he just needed a free throw to get another 60. It would have been his second 60-point game, and he missed the free throw and ended with 59. Kevin Durant knows you trash for that, bro. You trash for that. But he finished with 49 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists, becoming the first player in NBA history to do that in the playoffs. You can go back to, my first episode. You can go back to the very first episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is episode 165 or something. You can go back to episode 1. I dedicated my first ever episode of the Unpopular Podcast to tell you guys how great Kevin Durant is. And it hasn't stopped, man. Look, we'll talk about the Bucks side in a second. But Kevin Durant, there's something to be said when you look at a player and you like, we expected Kevin Durant. Most people expected Kevin Durant to score. What a lot of people didn't expect, and I can be one of those people. I didn't expect Kevin Durant to be able to facilitate like he did last night. I didn't expect him to be able to turn on the defense. I think he had like 4 or 5 blocks. Kevin Durant did everything, or maybe 3 or 4. Kevin Durant did everything he needed to do for his team. And this is even with James Harden coming back. And James Harden obviously not looking like he's ready to play. Now, James Harden, for people that don't know, he's missed, I think he's only played 40 seconds of this entire series because he tweaked his hamstring. Now, this is the same hamstring that made him miss a lot of time in the regular season. But James Harden was out there, and it's James Harden, honestly, now we know you can tell he wasn't ready to play. I kind of feared when I heard James Harden was going to play, I kind of feared like this was the same situation that Kevin Durant was in Golden State. Golden State, when they were down against the Toronto Raptors in the NBA Finals, I think they were down 3-1, and Kevin Durant started to feel the heat. He started to understand that, if I don't play, we are going to lose. Steph Curry is giving his best. Klay Thompson at the time is giving his best. If we don't play, we are going to lose. I mean, if I don't play, we are going to lose. Kevin Durant was the best player on the team. And he felt the pressure. And that same game that he played, that everyone knew his hamstring wasn't right. Everyone knew that he really shouldn't be playing. But that same game, he ruptures his Achilles. Now, I didn't wish that upon anybody, and I didn't think that was going to happen to James Harden. But you can see early on, James Harden, hamstrings is something that you can't rush a hamstring. And I say you can't rush a hamstring because a pulled hamstring can turn into a popped hamstring, can turn into a come off the bone hamstring. And once that happens, you're out. And sometimes that can be career altering if the muscle comes off the bone. So I just didn't think he was right. And there's a reason why. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand these players make big money and they're going to think about their bodies first, but there's a reason why a player like James Harden, a player like James Harden, who, if you look back at his history, is known to play through injuries and known to play in big moments, there's a reason why he wasn't playing. And when we heard Kyrie went down, or was going down, and of course we saw the ankle sprain and it looked bad, that's when you can start and you start hearing, okay, well, Kyrie's out, James is out, it's going to be on Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant doesn't have the playmaking skills that Kyrie or James Harden has. When you start hearing that, and of course you start hearing the chatter of, okay, well, we don't like what happened out of Houston. We don't like how you force your way out of Houston to Brooklyn. And the time when Brooklyn needs you the most, you're out. Like, you start hearing that. Then he said, all right, you know what? We're going to play. Hell, and it looked quickly, you can tell that James Harden should not have been out there. James Harden was not ready. Now, luckily, thank God he didn't get hurt, but you can just tell he wasn't out there. Now, am I saying that he's still hurt? I don't know. But I'm saying is he just wasn't ready to play. And it could have been, he could have been physically ready. He could have been physically ready to play, but it's kind of hard jumping from not playing for a long time to jumping straight into an intense series like the Bucks and Nets series is right now. So you can just tell he wasn't there. He finished with, I believe, 5 or 6 points. He only made one field goal, I think, and that was like a layup. And it just didn't look good. He had a couple turnovers. He didn't look engaged. He just did not look good. However, his counterpart, or his Kevin Durant, was just going off. And it's funny, man. It's funny because people throw LeBron James, he needs to win with Kevin Durant's never won without a star, or Kevin Durant needs to know how it feels to not have superstar talent around him. He needs to understand what LeBron James has been through. Here's the thing, and this is why I hate, and I mean absolutely hate, that argument, because the same breath they will say, well, the reason why LeBron James didn't win is because he didn't have so. So, and it's not just LeBron, man. If you look in history, bruh, Larry Bird never won by himself. Magic Johnson never won by himself. Michael Jordan never won by himself. Hell, Michael Jordan only won one playoff game before Scottie Pippen came. Who else? Hakeem Olajuwon never won by himself. Kobe never won by himself. Shaq never won by himself. D. Wade never won by himself. Steph Curry never won by himself. It's like, and LeBron James, I don't know if I said it, but LeBron James has never won by himself. If you look at all the championships LeBron has won, LeBron has 4 championships. 2 of them, he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. The one that the one that we can throw out the outlier, which is the first one against Dallas. LeBron James already said that was his, it is what it is. He didn't come ready to play this day. The one that he lost, Chris Bosh was hampered. D Wade was hampered. If you go to Cleveland, every single year he lost, somebody was hurt, or you're just playing an all-world team. Like, you remember 2015, Kyrie and Kevin Love was hurt. 2016, when everyone was healthy, Golden State was hurt. Bogut was out, who was a huge piece, especially as a rim protector. Andre Iguodala was out. If you look at the Lakers, when he won the Lakers, he had Anthony Davis, who was playing the best basketball he's ever played. So this narrative and the argument that, Kevin Durant needs to find out how it is to win by himself, to be quite as is kept, LeBron James doesn't know how it is to win by himself because he's never done it. Neither has Jordan. Neither has any player in the world. And people love, ever since Kevin Durant, of course, went to Golden State, Kevin Durant's pretty much been enemy number one. People, the whole snake thing, of course, the burner account, that went up. People don't allow play. You know what it is? And it's funny because I guess I'm kind of in this realm too. What people have a sports life in general is funny and weird, man. Because people like myself, I have a podcast, a sports podcast. I talk about what's happening in sports. People that work on major networks, and they get money. They get paid. I don't get no money, but they get paid. People get paid to critique things, and it's not just people feel like they can critique, which they can. You're your own person, but they feel they can critique things that they could never do. Like, if you go to YouTube right now, there's a huge genre of album reviews. People do album reviews, people do song reviews. And of course, I'm not here saying that you can't do what you don't want to do. Hey, do you? Hey, I watch a lot of album reviews. But a lot of those people, most of those people can't put pen to paper and write an 8, let alone a 16, let alone a whole song, let alone make a beat. But they just feel obligated and they feel the need because that's their job. They feel that they can speak on something like an album. Now, of course, I understand they speak on how they feel about it and if they like it. But in the same vein, they'll tell you that so and so is trash, but they can't even sing on beat. They'll tell you that so and so can't rap to say they life, but they can't rap. They can't put an 8 together. Basketball, sports. People will say how garbage that a football quarterback is, yet and still, I can't throw you a phone. Like, you can't throw me my phone 10 inches and have the junk go over my head. People saying they should have made that catch. They should have made that run. They should have made that dive. Yet, if I threw you your phone 10 inches, you couldn't catch it. Basketball players, man, Kevin Durant's garbage. Kevin Durant's soft. Kevin Durant is this. Kevin Durant is that. Yet and still, every single time Kevin Durant is needed, this man performs. Now, you can go on and talk about what happened with a 3-1 lead. And a lot of that was Kevin Durant, I'm not going to lie. And a lot of that was other players too. But it's just like, you can't talk about legacy games. And I know, like, you can't, no, let me not say that. You can't say someone's trash. You can't say someone's garbage. They are supremely talented. Anybody that made it to the league, whether it's NBA, MLB, hockey, football, they are supremely talented. And to be Kevin Durant and to be one of the most talented players to ever play a sport, Kevin, you cannot speak about the NBA, the history of the NBA, without mentioning Kevin Durant's name. And hey, yet and still, people still say he's trash because they don't like the fact that he did what anybody would do if they're unhappy at a job and had other unemployment. So, and it's funny, man. Let's go over to the Bucks side. No, let me say, congratulations, Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets for beating the Bucks. I think it was 114-108, and now they're leading 3-2 in the series. Let's go over to the Bucks. Let's go over to the Bucks. The same thing. As much as you can praise heap on Kevin Durant in the Brooklyn Nets for winning, you also have to, in the same breath, you have to criticize what you saw from the Bucks. Let's just say Kyrie was there. What are the Bucks, and what do the Bucks have that the Brooklyn Nets don't? Well, they have size. You have Giannis. You have Jrue Holiday, who's a big guard. You have PJ Tucker, who is a rugged player. You have Brook Lopez. You have size. Hell, even Pat Connaughton's kind of a stronger guard. So with that being said, you have size. You're a better defensive team. I mean, you have Giannis and Jrue Holiday, who both made the all-defense team this year. We'll talk about that a little later. You have PJ Tucker, who a lot of people revere as a great defender. You have Brook Lopez, who a lot of people is a decent mid-range defender. You have Mike Budenholzer, who has won a Coach of the Year. And, of course, you have a 2-time MVP in Giannis. Charles Barkley said, there's a reason why Charles Barkley said that the Bucks have the ability, and he believes the Bucks have the ability to win in championship. Yet, in the same breath, he also said they're probably one of the dumbest teams he's ever seen. Now, I'm not going to go as far and say they're a dumb team. Hell, back to what I just said, I'm not in the NBA. I can't call nobody dumb. I can't call nobody trash. But there is something to be said that, yes, I understand that you're good. I know that they're one of the best three-point shooting teams. Giannis is not a good three-point shooter. I understand that in the regular season, they're used to jacking up threes and making it. Don't get me wrong. You still have Chris Middleton. You know, they make a lot of threes. But when you're playing against an opponent, one who's weakened as far as Kyrie not there, James Harden, you know his hamstring's not right. I mean, there should be no reason why James Harden, who is a multiple-time scoring champ, as an MVP and a runner-up to MVP multiple years in a row, there should be no reason why he has 0 points at halftime. So you know something's not right. And you also know that the only person that is on the floor that can generate any type of their own buckets is Kevin Durant. There should be no reason why you're up 17 points. 17 points. And you lose this game with no Kyrie, with a slow down Harden, and you gave up, I think they gave up, 27 points to Jeff Green? Now, don't get me wrong. Shouts out my Maryland natives, Kevin Durant, Jeff Green. Shouts out to them. PG's finest. Stand up. Seat Pleasant. Stand up. There's no disrespect. I mean, Jeff Green, like I said, I'm not going to disrespect my Maryland people, man. But I will say this. There should be no reason why Jeff Green should give you 27 points and Kevin Durant. I understand. I can see Kevin Durant giving you 49, 15, and 10. I can see that. I mean, that's Kevin Durant. But to allow Jeff Green to give you, 24, 27 points? To allow James Harden to score under 10 points? To allow Joe Harris to score under 10 points? To allow Bruce Brown to score under 10 points? And you still lose the game. See, I never understood what it was. I never understood what was. I knew that Giannis's lack of shooting always held them back. I knew that before they got Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, he's one of those players where he can be a incredibly solid number two. But a lot of people talk about the inconsistency that Paul George has, but nobody really talks about the inconsistency that Chris Middleton has, especially in the playoffs. There should be no reason why you're up 7. Like this game was more important to the Bucks than it was Brooklyn. I understand that whoever was going to lose this game was going to be down 3-2 in the series. But nobody outside of Brooklyn expected Brooklyn to win. No one did. Because when you're losing players left and right like Kyrie, when you have a hampered James Harden, you shouldn't win that game, especially in the playoffs. It'd be different if this was regular season. This is the playoffs, so you know how they're coming. You know what they're doing. Yet and still, you still can't you still don't stop it. Then it brings me back to the larger point, and that is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I can't take back. I can't look. You're a 2-time MVP. You're a former Defensive Player of the Year now. You're one of the you were all defense first team this year. You're a perennial all defensive team selection. There should be no reason why you're looking at a man across from you score 49, 16, and 10. And then you're looking at another man that scores 27 points in Jeff Green, and I think only misses 1 or 2 threes the entire game. I think he was like 6 for 7 or 7 for 8 or something like that. There should be no reason why you see both of those players and you're guarding Joe Harris. Now, if that was the scheme, I would think that a 2-time MVP of reigning Defensive Player of the Year would be able to say, you know what, Coach? Hey, Mike, I respect you, bro. Look, we're good. But let me get Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's my height. Kevin Durant is my equal at this point. Or let me say this. Kevin Durant, we're the 2 best players on the teams. Let me guard him. I don't need to guard Joe Harris. If Joe Harris goes for 37 points, if I'm not on him, but Kevin Durant goes, I will say this. If any other person would have went off and not Kevin Durant, Brooklyn would have lost that game. If Bruce Brown would have had 24, if Landry Shamet would have had 20, if Blake Griffin would have had a 30-point game, and Kevin Durant had a subpar game because Giannis held him to a subpar game, Brooklyn would have lost the game because Brooklyn is not built like that. But Giannis sat there and watched a man in Kevin Durant. And I'm not saying that Kevin Durant shouldn't have done that. But what I'm saying is Kevin Durant is known to do that. So why are you not guarding him? Hey, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, now you are down 3-2. You're going back to the Bucks. or you're going back to Milwaukee. Um, Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. You give James Harden yet another day to rest and yet another game, which James Harden, there's no way James Harden cannot be better there's no way that James Harden cannot be worse than what he was yesterday. So do I think before yesterday, would I have thought that the Brooklyn Nets could win this series? Without Kyrie and without James Harden? Of course not. I'm not saying Kevin Durant is not good, but Kevin Durant, the thing that makes LeBron James and Kevin Durant is different is their mindset. LeBron James is more of a facilitator first, then I'll give you my points. Kevin Durant is a bona fide scoring machine. Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is one of probably top 5, maybe even top 3. We can debate that another time. I'll just stick with top 5 greatest scorers of all time. LeBron James is top 5, maybe top 3 greatest facilitators of all time. That's what made Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan so different. Magic Johnson, while he didn't have a shot like he could shoot towards the end of his career, but Magic Johnson can go and he can give you 30, he can give you 40, but he'll also give you 25, 15 assists and 12 rebounds. He'll also give you 30, 20 and 20. When Jordan will give you a 49-point game, a 69-point game, a 62-point game. So just because their mindsets and their approach to the game is different doesn't mean that they're both not great. There's nobody that thinks that Magic Johnson wasn't great. There's nobody that thinks Michael Jordan wasn't great. There's nobody that thinks that LeBron James is not great. And there's nobody that thinks that Kevin Durant's not great. I just think that the approach to the game is different. It's a lot easier stopping somebody that is a pure scorer, and that's it. Or I'll say this. They're going to get theirs. Kevin Durant's going to get his. It's just don't let anyone else get it. Or you say we're going to stop Kevin Durant and make everyone else, make everyone else score. I don't know what I don't know what Milwaukee tried to do because Kevin Durant went off and nobody else scored, really, except Jeff Green, and they still lost. So before yesterday, would you have told me that the Brooklyn Nets, or if you would have asked me, could the Brooklyn Nets win without Kyrie and James Harden, I would have said, of course not. And that's no reprimandum to Kevin Durant. That's no disrespect to Kevin Durant. I just thought that I would think that a team that is fairly healthy outside of, I know they don't have Dante DiVincenzo, but a team that's fairly healthy could beat a team that's losing 2 of their 3 players, 2 of their top 3 players. Not to mention, even if James Harden came back, which he did, and he wasn't even 100%, and you can tell he wasn't 100%, I would have said no. Brooklyn is going to lose this game. Now, you ask me, I don't know, man. Kevin Durant's still going to be Kevin Durant. And the way that they're playing Kevin Durant, like PJ Tucker he's fouling and he's hacking, but Kevin Durant's still giving you 49, 16, and 10. That game really showed me, that game told me more about Milwaukee than it did Brooklyn. Charles Barkley, who was warranted to say that a player can be trash or not because he's played and he's an all-time great player. Charles Barkley sees something like there's Charles Barkley doesn't really call a team, especially a team that he believes can win a championship, dumb. But there's something that I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's players because they have some very high IQ players. I just don't. It's hard now. We can look up 2 weeks from now, and Milwaukee could be steamrolling to the finals. But that loss last night means a lot, and it hurts Milwaukee more than it proved a lot more about Milwaukee than it did Brooklyn. What did it prove? What did last night prove about Brooklyn? It proved that Kevin Durant is a great scorer, which he's been. It proved that Kevin Durant can get a lot of rebounds, which, I mean, he's 7 feet tall. It proved that Kevin Durant can get some assists. We saw that in Golden State, and we kind of saw that in Oklahoma City. What did it prove? It proved that Joe Harris still can't shoot right now, even though he's a perennial three-point shooter. It proved that Blake Griffin doesn't have it yet, or doesn't have it anymore, but he's still serviceable. It proved that Jeff Green can have a Jeff Green game. It proved that. What did it prove? But what did the loss prove? It proved that. What did the loss prove to the Bucks, or prove about the Bucks? I just don't know if they're ready. I don't know if they have, if your star can't shoot and continuously shoots threes, or fadeaway jump shots in crunch time with James Harden on you, and you're taking a fadeaway jump shot it's different if you're KD or you're Kobe and you're known to take fadeaway jump shots. But if you're Giannis, who is not even good at the free throw line, taking fadeaway jump shots, I don't know. But that was an all-time great game because of what we saw. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Giannis is trash. I mean, Giannis still had like 34 or something. But there's no way that you can tell me that Kevin Durant is the only scorer that you have. In fact, there's only 2 players, I believe, maybe 3, that scored over double digits. I think 3, because I think Landry Shamet scored over. I think either 4 players scored over double digits. 2 of them scored over 20 points. And you're up 17, and you lose that game. That'd be hard to bounce back, man. That'd be hard to bounce back. Let's move forward. Ooh. You know, injuries have taken a toll on this entire season. We say that almost every week, and almost every week somebody else goes out. It was, LeBron in regular season, AD, Clay, of course, still isn't there. There's injuries have just taken a toll on this season. And the same is being said for the playoffs. People are getting hurt left and right, and the playoffs are, like I said, AD. That really hurt the playoffs. Jamal Murray. The playoff, injuries is a part of the game, of course, but it's taken, there's been a lot of injuries this year. And add Kawhi Leonard to the list of being injured. Kawhi Leonard is now out indefinitely and unlikely to play tonight in Game 5. And a lot of people are saying that he's probably going to miss. He's probably going to miss the rest of the series due to ankle injury. I mean, his knee, due to a knee injury and tweaking his knee. Now, this is bad on 3 fronts. One, you don't want to see a player getting hurt. Like, nobody wants to see a player get hurt. Even if you're not even a Clippers fan, nobody wants to see a player get hurt. And for people that celebrate for players getting hurt, that's a different level of vile, in my opinion. Like, how are you going to praise a player getting hurt? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I understand that you're a fan of a team, but these are still players. These are still people. You're not going to, like, Janice at the office, if she broke her leg, you're not going to start jumping for joy. So why would you do it it is what it is. But I hope Kawhi Leonard gets back healthy. But this is huge on the second part is Now, of course, they didn't load manage as much this year, seeing as though that, the play-in tournament, the season was shortened. So they didn't load manage a lot, but this is the biggest fear for teams that do a lot of load managing, especially load managing on stars. You load manage so they can be completely and perfectly healthy for the playoffs. So the fact that you would load manage somebody and they're out for the playoff, or they get hurt in the playoffs and now they're out in a pivotal moment is huge. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for Kawhi's injury. Injuries are injuries are freak incidences, and of course I hope for the speedy recovery, but nobody in the Clippers organization this is the worst case scenario when it comes to, one, the Clippers organization, and two, load managing teams. When your best player that's been load managing due to, getting ready and want to be fresh for the playoffs gets hurt in the playoffs. And number three, now while you have Paul George has not shown that he is capable. It's funny. Somebody said, I don't remember who said it, but I don't take credit for this, but somebody said it. Paul George's career is a complete duality. And when I say complete duality, if you look at his career when he was in Indiana, Paul George was not the best regular season player, but he was an incredible postseason player. Like, his days in Indiana, he was a top 5 player in the playoffs when he was in Indiana. He could do no wrong. Like, we remember those duels between Indiana and Miami, and of course dunking on Birdman, and even his last year in Indiana, I think he had like a 49 or 42 or something point game in the playoff. Like, he was going crazy in the playoffs when he was in Indiana. Now, he was still a good regular season player, but he didn't shine until he went to the playoffs, like stars are supposed to do. Then you get to OKC and the Clippers, and it's just something changed. Now he is the good, like, he is crazy good in the regular season, and then he's inconsistent in the playoffs. He reminds me of, and don't get me wrong. No, you know what is with this? He reminds me of Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady is known to be one of the best offensive players the league has ever seen. Yet and still, that never translated to the postseason. He had some good postseason games, but he never got out the first round. Paul George reminds me of Tracy McGrady. Incredible in the regular season. Hell, just 3 years ago, he was third. He finished third in MVP voting. There's a reason why a lot of people can still argue if he's a top 10, top 15 player because of what he does in the regular season. But then, like Tracy McGrady, when you're a superstar, your game's supposed to rise in the postseason. His kind of, at least this point in his career, kind of diminishes. And so did Tracy McGrady. Doesn't take away from the fact that Tracy McGrady was still a great player, but Tracy McGrady, there should be no reason why you're as good as you are and revered as you are, and you have never gotten out the first round. The only time you got out the first round, I apologize, is when you were bench rider for the Spurs. And don't get me wrong, this is not a shot at Tracy McGrady. This is just facts. So this is why this injury to Kawhi Leonard comes at the absolute worst time. The Clippers already fought back from being down 0-2 now to tie the series up. Kawhi Leonard has been their best player. Even though the 2 games that they did win, Paul George has been incredible as well. But it's a lot easier being incredible as a 2 than it is a 1 because Kawhi Leonard has been great those games as well. You're going against a team in Utah who, by the way, is the number one overall team in the playoffs, or number one overall team in the West, but had the best record in the playoffs. They're getting Donovan Mitchell. Well, Donovan Mitchell's gone crazy. I don't know if I'm watching Donovan Mitchell or if I'm watching Steph Curry. I don't know what the hell I'm watching. I just know this man is going crazy. And you're going against a complete team. Now, on paper, the Clippers still have enough. You know, you still have Paul George. Reggie Jackson's been going crazy. Marcus Morris Sr. has been good. On paper, you still have a solid team. Nicholas Batum, Luke Kennard. Hell, you still have DeMarcus Cousins, Rondo, who for some reason has dropped out the whole rotation. But Kawhi Leonard is your best player. And Kawhi Leonard has been your best player this entire playoffs. And this is a big game for Paul George. I'm not saying you have to win. But you have to have one of those, incredible games. And I don't know if Paul George is capable of that, at least at this point of his career, being a number one, because he hasn't been a number one since Indiana. And quite as it's kept, even with Paul George being a number one in Indiana, they didn't. I mean, of course, they went to a couple Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't really have much success. So if Kawhi Leonard's out the rest of the series, they lose this series. As you're playing against the most complete team as far as chemistry, players, positions. The Utah Jazz is probably one of the most complete teams, if not the most complete team in the league. And you're out your best player? Yeah, nah. So we're really about to see, one, what Paul George is made of, and two, we're really about to see what Utah is made of. If Utah, this game 5, is eerily similar, should have a similar feel to what we saw last night against the Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. This is a must-win game for the Bucks. I mean, for the Utah Jazz. They're down there, but now I understand Brooklyn's best player wasn't out, which is KD, but their second best player in James Harden was wobbled, and the third best player in Kyrie is out, and more than likely out for the series. The Clippers' best player is out, man. And you have to win this game. The last thing you want to do is be at home and go down 3-2 to a team that didn't even have their best player. That's all I'm saying, man. And moving on with the whole being out, and let's move forward. Chris Paul, I don't know what it is, man. I feel horrible for Chris Paul. And I feel horrible for Chris Paul because it's like every time something happens, man, it's either an injury or an injury, and now it's COVID. So Chris Paul tested positive for COVID today, I think. And he is now in COVID protocol. And because he tested positive, that I think the quarantine period is longer because you tested positive instead of, I don't know, contact rate. I don't know. Now, the thing that's helping Chris Paul and the Suns is that they don't have to play anymore. They swept the Denver Nuggets. And of course, the Utah and Clippers series is still going on and could go to 7 games. That's what's helping them. But again, man, I just feel bad for Chris Paul. It's like you get to the highest of highs, right? You sweep Denver, you sweep the MVP in Nikola Jokic, and this is the team to do it. You have young legs. You have one of the best teams in the league, and this Everyone that looks at the Suns knows that this is the team that could do it. You have Devin Booker. You have Jay Crowder. You have DeAndre Ayton. Cameron Payne is playing like I'm I've always been one of those people to bash Cameron Payne because I'm like, bro, how are you still in the league? But you have Cameron Payne hooping like a bona fide six-man of the year, and now you get hit with COVID, man. I'll say this. To me, Phoenix doesn't have a shot if Chris Paul, for one, first and foremost, I hope Chris Paul gets healthy. I hope Chris Paul is okay. I hope that it's not serious. I hope it's not. I hope it doesn't affect him serious. As powerful as it affects other people in the world. Of course, you don't know with the whole body and everything, but I hope that he gets back to full strength. That's the first and foremost. I mean, F basketball, F sports. I hope he's able to be okay. But on a sports tip, Phoenix has no shot in winning, even though you have a lot of great young players, which, by the way, they had last year. They have no shot without Chris Paul. And honestly, I don't think they have a shot if Chris Paul's not healthy. That's how important Chris Paul is to what makes this team tick, what makes this team go. With Chris Paul healthy, they have a shot to win a national championship. They have a shot to win the NBA Finals. Without Chris Paul, they have no shot. And that's no disrespect to Monty Williams and his coaching. That's no disrespect to Devin Booker and how good he is shooting the ball. There's no disrespect to any of it. But Chris Paul is the most important person in that franchise right now. And we saw it against the Lakers. We saw it against Denver. Hell, they just beat the MVP. And yeah, man. Yeah. So I wish nothing but a speedy recovery for Chris Paul. And I hope that this does not derail his championship run, because we've seen time and time again, whether it was an injury for the Clippers, whether it was injuries around him in New Orleans, whether it was the hamstring injury when they were up 3-1 or 3-2 or 3-1 against Golden State, a Golden State team that had a healthy Kevin Durant, a healthy Curry, a healthy Draymond Green, a healthy Klay Thompson, and they were up. The Rockets were 3-1, and then Chris Paul's hamstring goes out and it's a wrap. And now this. So I just hope, I hope for a speedy recovery, and I hope that this doesn't derail, to me, a perfect chance for him to win a championship. So let's move forward. I just want to shout out Atlanta for tying up the series against the Philadelphia 76ers. I didn't see this coming. I thought Atlanta could win a couple games, which of course they have so far. But I didn't think, Atlanta's another team that we're starting to see that's growing up right before our eyes, man. We're seeing Trae Young being incredible with controlling his pace, and even if he's not having a good shooting day, he's getting other people involved. John Collins has been great. Clint Capella has been great. Like, the Atlanta Hawks has been incredible. And on top of that, I don't know what the hell happened to the Philadelphia 76ers last game. I mean, Joel Embiid himself went 0 for 12 the second half. And, of course, when Joel Embiid is going 0 for 12 and can't shoot, you have Ben Simmons who can't shoot, period. Tobias Harris was turning the ball over. Seth Curry wasn't hitting shots. They're already out Danny Green. Danny Green's out with, I think, an ankle injury, and he's going to be out. So I don't know when he's coming back, but that's another shooter and defender that you're missing. George Hill is not getting it done. So shouts out to Atlanta, man. Do I think that Atlanta is going to win this series. I don't think so. I don't foresee another second half. Now I do understand that Joel Embiid did tweak his knee, and that is a huge cause for concern because he did miss a couple games in the Washington series, and of course, regular season he missed a lot of games due to injury. So, and that to me, the games that he missed is what cost him winning a MVP. But if Joel Embiid's not right, like if Joel Embiid can't get back to 100% or isn't close to 100% because of the injury, yeah, no, Atlanta got the series because I can't trust Ben Simmons to be my leading or to lead me to victory scoring wise. I can't trust Seth Curry, even though he's been incredible. I can't trust Seth Curry. I can't trust any of these Dwight Howard. I can't trust any of these people to lead me to victory, especially over a young team that is going. I mean, Bogdanovich has been great. Kevin Huerter, shouts out to Maryland product. He's been great. I can't see it, man. I can't see it. But if Joel Embiid is back to healthy, hell, they were up like 15, 16, 18 points. They were up 18 points against Atlanta before Atlanta came back. So I think this is even though there are still blowouts that we're seeing, this has been an interesting playoffs, man. And especially this round has been good. I mean, the Atlanta Philly series has been great. Of course, we just talked about the Bucks and Brooklyn. Utah and Clippers has been pretty even as far as now it's up 2-2, or now it's tied 2-2. And then of course the Suns just sitting waiting on who we gonna play. So this has been a really good series, really good playoffs, man. I know there's been a lot of blowouts, but there has been a lot of great games as well. I mean, look at some of the games that we got from Dallas and Luka. Look at some of the games, some of the Lakers games, man. So I mean, shouts out to Atlanta, and I just had to shout them. I mean, for tying up 2-2. And doing what you had to do at home court. So let's move forward. Oh, Jesus. Oh. Hey, man, look. Oh, my God. Praise Jesus. Look, man. Last episode, we talked about it was unlikely that the Washington was going to part ways with Scott Brooks, and I went on a huge rant about how Scott Brooks has been mediocre as hell for us. I'm not saying that Washington listened to the episode. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm saying is, as we sit here today, Scott Brooks has been relieved of his services as head coach. Praise God. Oh man. Now, of course, with that being said, who is a good candidate? Now, also on the heels of that, Stan Van Gundy is also out as the head coach of the I think head coach and GM of the Pelicans. So now there's a lot of coaching. I mean, who are good coaching candidates for the team? You can look at Chauncey Billups, you can look at Becky Hammon, you can look at Jason Kidd, you can look at Jacques Vaughn. Like, there's a lot of good. Nate McMillan might be out there after the end of the season. I think that a team like the Timberwolves may look at a Terry Stotts. I don't know, man. But all I know is ain't no more Scott Brooks. I'm excited, man. Ah, man. What a day to be alive. What a time to be alive. Now, look, first and foremost, let me say this, though. I know I'm joking around about Scott Brooks not being here, and I'm generally happy for my team, but it does suck that somebody gets fired from their job. Thank you, Scott Brooks, for being there since 2016 and doing whatever you did. as a coach. I appreciate that. I will say that you definitely helped with the development of Bradley Beal. That's one thing that we can say about Scott Brooks. Scott Brooks is a good developing coach for some players. But yeah, man, Scott Brooks is out of there. Thank God for that. So let's move forward. So the All NBA and all defensive teams were announced, I think yesterday, and of course, with the All NBA teams and all defensive teams, you have the snubs and everything. Let me just read off the all defensive team first. So all defensive second team. No, let's do first. First team is Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, and Ben Simmons. I don't really have a problem with any of those. Rudy Gobert won the Defensive Player of the Year, so you know he has to be part of the first team. Draymond Green still, a lot of people may not like him, but you can't deny his defensive ability. Drew Holiday's, I can't. Ben Simmons, who a lot of people thought should have won the Defensive Player of the Year, I can't be mad at that. The second team, you have Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Matisse Thybulle, and Kawhi Leonard. If you want to talk about snubs, the only people I could see maybe make it is Lou Dort. I know a lot of people don't know much about Lou Dort because he plays for Oklahoma City, and I know he missed the end of the season due to injury. But Lou Dort is an incredible defender. Maybe Paul George could have been in there. I don't know. Mikal Bridges. I don't know. Clint Capella maybe. But Miles Turner. I know he missed a lot of the season due to injury, but Miles Turner could have been there. But I'm not mad at the Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year selections. I think, all defensive teams. I'm not mad at those selections because the people that should have been there, except maybe one or two. But then again, in the same thing that we're about to talk about with the All-NBA team, who are you going to take off to put someone on? And I couldn't see myself taking off anybody to put on Lou Dort. Even though Lou Dort, if he was on this list, I wouldn't be upset at all. It's just hard for me to, even though a lot of people don't know who Matisse Thybulle is, he's been incredible. Kawhi Leonard, I know you can say what you say in the regular season. In the playoffs, getting torched by Donovan Mitchell and torched by Luka, but it's still Kawhi Leonard. Joel Embiid is having probably the best defensive year he's ever had. So I can see it. I'm not mad with the Defensive Player of the Year list. Then you get to the All-NBA team. And, of course, with the All-NBA team, you have snubs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my All-NBA snub team. I'm only going to give you one team. But in order to talk about that, let's talk about who made the teams. First, All-NBA first team, you had Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, and Nikola Jokic. I have no problem with the first team as far as the people that made it. I would have put Damian Lillard, who made the second team, I would have put him on the first team and dropped Luka Doncic down. I understand that the Dallas finished, I believe, with a better record than the Portland Trailblazers, but I feel that Damian Lillard had a better season than Luka Doncic, and I would have rewarded him with being a first-teamer. Moving forward, though, second team, you had Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Julius Randle, and Joel Embiid. The only argument I can see is about LeBron James, seeing as though he missed a lot of time due to injury, but that's still LeBron James. And before the injury, he was, LeBron James was an MVP discussion. So I'm not mad at any of the second team list. I do believe Chris Paul should have been there. I do believe Damian Lillard, like I said, I would have put him on the first team and put Luka Doncic on the second. Julius Randle, you have to reward Julius Randle for having one of the best. He had statistically one of the best seasons a Knicks player has had since Melo. And he got the Knicks to, I think, the 4th seed. And this is the same Knicks who nobody thought was going to make the playoffs outside of the team. So, and of course, Joel Embiid, he finished second in MVP. He has to be on the second team. Third team is where it gets interesting. You have Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, and Rudy Gobert. Now, first and foremost, Bradley Beal deserved to be on this team. I'm not mad at his third team because of the success of the Wizards. but Bradley Beal finished second in scoring again, and Bradley Beal deserved to be on this team. A lot of people don't like Paul George. I get that. A lot of people like to throw around the whole pandemic P. A lot of people like to say what he has or hasn't done in the playoffs. A lot of people want to make jokes about Paul George. I get it. But this is yet another year where Paul George was incredible in the regular season. So Paul George definitely deserves to be on the All-NBA third team. And Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. There isn't really many centers. Of course, you had Bam could have been there maybe. Anthony Davis was out. So I'm not mad with the Rudy. I'm not mad with Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler. But here's the thing. Like I said, I'm going to give my all snub team. Let's start with the point guard for the All-NBA Snubbed team. And this is, of course, mine, the Unpopular Podcast. So, you know. First and foremost, at point guard, you can't tell me that, at least this season, there has been 15 players better than Donovan Mitchell. Seeing as though the Utah Jazz has the number 1 record in the league. And I know he did miss time, but so did LeBron James. And if you're going to reward LeBron James, now I'm not saying LeBron James and Donovan Mitchell on the same level. Don't hear me say that. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to reward LeBron James for what he did before the injury, you have to do that with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, I know, missed the end of the season, but he's still a huge part of Utah being where Utah was at the end of the season and even where Utah is today. Now, you can have an argument between who is more important between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, but what I'm saying is you can't have the number 1 overall team in the league and not have the point guard, especially when the point guard has been so pivotal that Donovan Mitchell had to be on one of these teams. So I have Donovan Mitchell at point guard. Now, I understand you can make an argument about Russell Westbrook. You can make an argument about James Harden. But James Harden was out. Russell Westbrook, I understand that this is, of course, 4th out of the 5 years that he averaged a triple-double. But when you look at some of the late game, and this is that to me, that's the biggest thing that's holding Russell Westbrook back, is his offense, his ability, his lack of ability to shoot, and his late game his late game mindset, man. And again, I wouldn't be upset if Russell Westbrook made this list. I mean, again, he finished with a triple-double again. And I think that if you were to put Russell Westbrook in, I think he had a better season than Kyrie Irving. Now, again, I understand Brooklyn finished with a better record than the Washington Wizards. But, again, Russell Westbrook was a huge reason why the Wizards are or were where they were, especially, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. But, I feel Russell Westbrook had a better season than Kyrie Irving, but the thing that held Russell Westbrook back, in my opinion, again, is his lack of shooting and his late game decision making is still off, man. And any Wizard fan who wants to go up, like who is upset about this, which I understand, but you have to understand, like, you know how bad Russell Westbrook is late game situations. Sometimes, most of the time. Like, you know it. That's one thing. You can argue that Russell Westbrook is this, Russell Westbrook is that. One thing that you cannot argue is Russell Westbrook be having some bonehead decisions in late game situations. And I think that's what held him back from making this team. But let me keep going. So you have shooting guard. Shooting guard, I had Russell Westbrook. I mean, I just said all that. I just said all that. Now, you could have put James Harden on there, but James Harden I think he only played half the season due to injury. And, of course, what happened with Houston. And James Harden was incredible, don't get me wrong. But I just feel, Russell Westbrook, I mean, you average a triple-double. You have to reward that. Now, everything that I just said about Russell Westbrook is still true. But I had Russell Westbrook as my shooting guard. So my point guard is Donovan Mitchell. My shooting guard is Russell Westbrook. My small forward is Devin Booker. I mean, looking at the Suns' success this year, I mean they're the second best, or record wise, they're the second best team in the league. And a lot of that was because of Chris Paul, and a lot of that was because of Donovan Mitchell. I mean, not Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. And I looking at the scoring discrepancy of, or looking at the scoring chart of the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker is by far their best scorer and most important scorer. I mean, I know you have Chris Paul in his mid range, but Devin Booker is able to, get to the rim. He's able to kill you mid range. He's able to shoot threes. I mean, you saw what he did against the Lakers. Like, Devin Booker has been. I think Devin Booker might end up as being one of those consistent, just missed it type people, which sucks. Damian Lillard, and when we talk about, before the boom of Damian Lillard, he was one of those people as well. But I think Devin Booker could end up on the list of players that, just may never get on. Not saying that he's playing in a position that's tough, man. Like, when you look at the shooting guard position, you have Luka, you have James Harden, you have Bradley Beal, you have Steph, if we're just talking about guards. You have Dame, you have Kyrie, you have Russell Westbrook, you have Paul George, but they put him as forward. So, but you have Chris Paul. Like, it's such a saturated. It's such a tall task making the All-NBA guard or forward list. Because if you look at the forwards, you have KD, you have LeBron, you have Paul George, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Giannis, you have Kawhi. So this is not a disrespect on Devin Booker. I do think that he did deserve, but to be on an all NBA team this year. But it's just tough. It's just tough. And I think he could end up being one of those players that just, maybe never makes it, or doesn't make it until, like, I don't know, a few years from now, when you see the guards kind of change hands, if you know what I mean. So I have Devin Booker as small forward. I have power forward. I have Jason Tatum. I understand that, and Jason Tatum kind of falls in the same boat right now as I can understand. If I were to take somebody out of the All-NBA third team, I guess I would have done Jimmy Butler. Don't get me wrong, no disrespect to Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler to me didn't have a better season than Jason Tatum. I mean, Jason Tatum had a couple 50, a couple 60-point games. Jason Tatum was with a team that saw Kemba Walker go in and out of the lineup due to injury, a team that saw Marcus Smart go in and out of the lineup due to injury, a team that saw Jaylen Brown go in and out of the lineup due to injury. The most consistent person was Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum, I said it before, I know I did an episode where I said who's going to be the best, the next best, and Jason Tatum's on that list. Jason Tatum is rapidly approaching to being a superstar. I don't think he is quite yet, but Jason Tatum had one of the best seasons this year, and to me, that's going to go under the rug because, like I said, this forward position, first of all, is going to go on the rug because of the lack of success that we saw from Boston, especially with the expectation that they had. And it's because of the guard spot is so saturated, man. And it's so tough to crack that forward list. I'm sorry. So I have Jason Tatum as the power forward, and center is Domantas Sabonis. A lot of people don't. He's one of those players that probably won't make. Well, he did make it last year, didn't he? I think, but. No, he was all-star. I don't know. But Sabonis, he's not a flashy player. He plays for Indiana, which isn't flashy at all. So he's not a person that's going to get a lot of shine. But Sabonis is still one of the best bigs in the league that just doesn't, because he just doesn't get shine. But Sabonis has been incredible. And Sabonis is one of those players that he may not get the credit that he deserves, but Sabonis is incredible. So My All-NBA snub team is Donovan Mitchell, Russell Westbrook, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, and Domantas Sabonis. So and again, there's a lot of other players, James Harden, like I said, Kevin Durant, even though he missed a lot of the season, Zion, Bam Adebayo. A lot of people were saying De'Aaron Fox could have made it. I don't know. There's a lot of people that could have made the list, and that doesn't negate the fact that they're still incredible players. You know what I mean? So, shouts out to the players that did make it, and shouts out to my All-NBA snub team. Man, you guys should have made it. So, let's move forward. Also with the announcements of the All-NBA teams coming out, there were announcements about some Team USA news. Damian Lillard, Draymond Green, and Jason Tatum all confirmed that they're going to be playing or committed to play. And Team USA hopes that, Bradley Beal's the next person to commit. And I think we kind of brushed on this last year, but I think the allure of winning a gold medal is kind of diminishing. I'm not saying that it's not important, but a lot of people are looking at gold medals, especially in the Olympics. Now, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people looking at it as in like, what's the point? As far as we know, we're the best players. We know that if we bring our best talent, as far as USA, if you bring your best talent to the Olympics in basketball, there's nobody on this planet that is not an American that is better than Steph Curry, that is better than LeBron James, that is better than Kyrie Irving, that is better than Damian Lillard, that's better than Kevin Durant. There is nobody on this planet that is not an American that's better than James Harden. As far as that's not in the NBA. Let me just say that. There's nobody that's not in the NBA. So Portugal can bring the greatest team ever. They're not beating Team USA. So I think now, of course, for some people is a big accomplishment. And for those people, I'm not taking away from that, man. Team USA is important if you want to do it. A lot of people talk about Melo. He never won an NBA championship, but he is the most decorated basketball champion in Team USA history, winning, I think, 4 Olympic gold medals. So it's important, but I think that the lore, because especially when the Redeem team came, the thing was, I'm playing for Team USA. Now, the pandemic definitely hurt the Olympics as far as, I believe that you would have had a better turnout, or you would have a better turnout than what you're going to have if there was no pandemic, if that season didn't end, or this season wasn't rushed, or the shortest off season in NBA history. I think that if there was no pandemic, a lot more players would have done the Olympics. But with the league being as strenuous as it is, with COVID, and now how it pushed this league, and especially when you're seeing a whole bunch of injuries, I just don't see. I think the biggest names that you're going to see play for Team USA, you've already seen: Dame, Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, maybe Bradley Beal. Do I think that more players will play? Of course. But I think that those might be the captains. Those might be the leaders of the teams. So, shouts out to them. But, I just think that while it's important to some people, I just don't think it has the same, I play for Team USA like it used to. Now it's damn near impossible to get a LeBron James. It's damn near impossible to get a Steph, to get a James Harden, to get a KD. I'm not saying it is impossible, but we haven't seen LeBron, Steph, and God knows how long. LeBron James last played Team USA was 2012? I think Steph was 2016, I believe. But hey, shouts out to Team USA. Shouts out to the people that will be playing for Team USA. Let's move on from basketball. Shouts out to Shouts out to Novak Djokovic for winning his 19th Grand Slam. And shouts out to Barbara. I know I'm gonna butcher this name. Kraj Krajov Krajikovic Krajikova. Hey, I don't know, bro. Shouts out to y'all for winning the French Open, man. We know Djokovic, one of the greatest tennis players we've ever seen, beat Rafael Nadal. I think he beat because Rafael Nadal was known to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest player on clay. I think he had the most wins on clay in tennis history, I believe. As far as men's, I don't know about women's. And the fact that Novak Djokovic beat him and completed his 19th Grand Slam, when we talk about tennis, and I always say this, and the same is true here. If you're great when you can't speak about the history of a sport and not say your name. Like, you can't speak about the history of tennis and not say Djokovic, not say Serena Williams. You can't speak about the history of football and not say Tom Brady or not say Joe Montana. You know what I mean? So, shouts out Djokovic for winning the 19th Grand Slam. And shouts out Barbara. Barbara K. Krajokova. I'm sorry. I know I butchered your name. I apologize. But shouts out to you guys for winning the French Open, both men's and women's. And lastly, before we go, Israel Adesanya beat Marvin Vettori in UFC, was it 256, I think? And Israel is starting to become one of those people that, he's won 10 consecutive. He has a 10-fight win streak in the middleweight division. Now, I understand he lost to John Blachowicz at the light heavyweight, but it was kind of clear that he was, at least size-wise. There's a reason why they have weight classes, and he just wasn't really a light heavyweight. But the middleweight division, he's beaten everyone that you've thrown his way. He beat Anderson Silva. He's beaten, like I said, Marvin Vettori. I know he did say that he wants to run it back with Robert Whitaker. But yeah, man, shouts out to Israel Adesanya, man. A lot of people don't like him because of his bravado. A lot of people don't like him because of the antics that he does, but he performs. He performs. And also shout out to Brandon Moreno for becoming the first Mexican born player to be a UFC champion. Shouts out to him, man. Shouts out to the UFC. The UFC, that's the thing. A lot of people talk about the success of other sports, but the UFC was one of the first sports to really thrive during the pandemic. Of course, know about the island and everything. So shout out to the UFC. Shouts out to Israel Adesanya. Shouts out to Brandon Moreno. UFC is still incredible, and it's still fun to watch. And I think I'm not gonna go as far as to say Israel Adesanya is the great, because that's the question that gets thrown around. Is he one of the greatest? I think he is one of the greatest box or UFC fighters we've seen, solely due to the record and solely due to how many people he's beat. But when we look, it's kind of hard, especially early in Anderson Silva days, especially Chuck Liddell. And it's kind of hard from what I've seen with John Bones Jones when he does fight. Hey, John Bones Jones is dominant. So, but I do think Israel Adesanya is in the class as some of the greatest we've seen because of the fact that he just beats who we put in front of him, especially in his weight class, the middleweight division. So, shouts out to him. And there you have it, man. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys for supporting me. It definitely means a lot. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and any subscription, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. It definitely would mean a lot. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, if you want an Unpopular Podcast, any type of merch, the link is in the description below. I got you. Shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts. I know it's hot, but sweatshirts, joggers, whatever you want, I got you. Shouts out to Jarrell. Shouts out to 1,000 Jumpers Podcast. This is their shirt. The decade shirt. I don't know what they call it, but this joint is tough. I was born in 1994, so I really like this shirt. I have a hoodie of this. I also have a sweater. So now I have a sweater, hoodie, and a shirt. Damn. So shouts out to Jarrell. I guess I'll put the link of this shirt in the bio as well. But yeah, man, that has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. Go get Unpopular Podcast merch. Go get Jarrell's merchandise or 1,000 Jumpers merchandise. And yeah, man, until next time, much love.